And I am not in a position to share any more information for you with the CAP communication. I think you will have to allow me a little bit of a day out tomorrow in relation to announcing these measures with respect. But I am sure next year you will be able to ask me what am I doing about all of these issues that I have announced tomorrow.
Thank
you, Mr. Flanagan.
Thank you very much. Just in relation to error rates, and I don't think it can be said often enough, they are actual errors. Some people would like to try and spin the errors as fraud, but they are actual errors, and they say to err is to be human. Well, you'd want to be even more than human to get around the complexity of some of the schemes, and I'm hoping that maybe Commissioner Hogan will have some good announcement for us tomorrow, because it seems like Pillar 1 seemed to take priority when it came to simplification, but the less well-off farmers and the more put-upon farmers in Pillar 2 didn't get the same thing, to the point that we have a series of people come to us with similar questions over and over again about being done for putting in error when in fact it was down to the complexity of the scheme. We go to the Commission, and in some cases we've dealt with situations whereby a booklet was sent to our Department of Agriculture explaining how the schemes work, yet by the time the booklet arrived at the farmers the wording had changed. And this sort of stuff happens over and over again, and we are told then by the Commission, oh well, this is down to the member state. Well, this is not an individual case, this appears to be systemic, so I'm just wondering what could the Commission do about that, because farmers want to stay within the scheme but they find it impossible. In fact, one particular individual who was there, a farmer, was asked by the Commission, why don't you talk to an advisor? And the schemes are so complex that your man answered, well, actually I was an advisor up until a couple of weeks ago and even I can't understand it. So when it comes to errors, it's down to the fact that the thing is so complex, and that needs to change. I'm always heartened when I come in here and I hear someone from a completely different political group to myself, politically the other end of the spectrum, Mr Zeller, constantly fight to change the situation whereby 80% of the money goes to 20% of the farmers. Well, I have news for you though, Mr Zeller. If you went to Ireland, you would be described as a communist. And I don't make that up. That comes from what was said during the last negotiations on CAP by John Bryan from the biggest farming organisation. He described the idea of convergence, the idea of flattening, and described the idea of digressivity as communism. Now, here's an interesting fact, and this is what you're up against. That man who referred to what you would like to see as communism was put down as the favourite to succeed now Commissioner Hogan in his seat in my Parliament. And he was made favourite for a reason, because they swing the same way.
I don't think I need to answer the last part of the question. It's an opinion of Mr Flanagan, and I'll let Mr Zeller decide whether he wishes to answer whether he is a communist or not. But in relation to changes in error rates and fraud, obviously fraud cases should be distinguished from simple errors, and I agree with Deputy Flanagan about that. And when we refer to error rates today, this is about errors, not about fraud. And we have shown today in the discussion already that we have a solid management and control system in the Common Agricultural Policy. And as reported by Olaf in its 2016 Commission report, there are very few fraudulent cases among CAP finance schemes and projects. And fraudulent irregularities over the last 5 years represent only about 0.11% of payments for agriculture, out of which only 0.03% for the European Agricultural Guidance Fund. So I think that that's a fairly good record by any standards. In relation to the simplification of the policy, I agree with Deputy Flanagan that we have to do a lot more. And it is shared management.